For months, Charlie Kirk's parents stayed silent. They watched the rumors, the scandals, the viral clips, and the endless gossip surrounding Erika Kirk and J.D. Vance swirl through the internet. They saw their family name dragged into narratives they never wanted, never approved, and never believed. And still they said nothing. Until now, in a move no one expected. Charlie's parents finally broke their silence and revealed the truth they had been holding on to for years. Not hints, not subtle messages, but direct, unfiltered clarity about what really happened between Erika, J.D., and the political circle that formed around their son. Their statement didn't come through a podcast or a press conference. It came from a place of frustration, exhaustion, and a desire to defend the son who could no longer defend himself. They claimed they had seen patterns long before the public ever noticed. Patterns in Erika's influence. Patterns in who she allowed near Charlie. Patterns in how certain political figures, J.D. included, appeared at moments that didn't feel accidental. According to them, the rumors didn't start with gossip. They started with truths twisted, truths ignored, and truths Charlie never had the chance to address. Their revelation shook the political world because it didn't just expose one scandal, it connected all the threads people had been whispering about for months. And for the first time, the public began asking the question Charlie's parents had asked themselves long before any of these rumors went viral. Who was protecting Charlie and who was using him? Charlie Kirk's parents had been silent for a long time, longer than most people realized, longer than the internet ever questioned. They stayed out of the gossip, avoided the interviews, and ignored the speculation swirling around Erika Kirk and the unexpected connection to J.D. Vance. People assumed their silence meant acceptance, or perhaps indifference. But the truth was far more complicated. Their silence wasn't the absence of opinion. It was the weight of knowledge. For years, they kept quiet because they wanted to protect their son's legacy. Charlie wasn't just their child. He was someone the world dissected, praised, criticized, and consumed daily. He became a symbol, then a brand, and eventually a lightning rod for controversy. But to them, he was still the boy they'd raised. It's the young man they watched rise, the person they understood better than anyone else. They didn't want their voices contributing to the noise that already surrounded his name. But things changed the moment Erika's scandals grew too big to ignore. What had once been whispers about controlling behavior, private decisions, and hidden motives suddenly became public records, leaked texts, and viral debates. And in the middle of that storm sat J.D. Vance. Charlie's parents had never expected to be involved in their son's story, yet someone whose name continued to surface in discussions about Erika. At first, they dismissed the rumors. They had met J.D. before. They respected him. He had never given them reason to believe he played a role in the tension surrounding their family. But the online chaos escalated quickly. Claims that J.D. and Erika were closer than the public knew. Suggestions that J.D. had been influenced by Erika's behind-the-scenes behavior. And accusations that he had inserted himself into decisions that affected Charlie's life. Charlie's parents watched as their son's memory became a battleground for speculation. They watched his marriage be picked apart by people who never stepped inside their home. And they watched Erika's defenders and critics alike twist stories to fit their own narratives. What pushed them over the edge wasn't a single headline or rumor, was the mounting realization that silence, once an act of protection, had become a weapon used against the truth. So they finally decided to speak. But before they revealed anything, they went back in their memories, back to the first moments Erika entered their lives. Back to the early days when Charlie introduced her with excitement in his eyes. Back when she seemed shy, polished, and deeply interested in supporting her husband's career. They remembered the dinners, the polite conversations, and the early red flags that were subtle enough to dismiss at the time. Erika always seemed aware of how people perceived her. She chose her words with precision, calculated her reactions, and presented herself as though she were constantly preparing for an audience, even in private. Still, they wanted to like her. They wanted to trust her. They wanted to believe that if she loved Charlie, everything else could be forgiven. But it didn't take long for patterns to emerge. The first time they noticed something was off, was small. Erika answered questions for Charlie before he had the chance to speak. She explained his decisions as though she had made them. She spoke to his parents in a tone that felt polite on the surface, but subtly controlling underneath. Charlie brushed it off, insisting Erika was simply trying to help manage the overwhelming demands of his growing career. His parents wanted to believe him. So they did. The second red flag came months later when they tried to schedule a weekend to visit their son. Erika handled all the communication. She insisted Charlie was too busy, too stressed, too overwhelmed to host. It didn't feel right. They called Charlie directly, and he sounded confused. He had no idea his parents were trying to visit. That moment planted the first seed of distrust. Not toward their son, but toward the woman who stood between them. Still, they stayed silent. Years went by, and the patterns became harder to ignore. Erika managed everything's Charlie's schedule, his public appearance, his private interactions. She filtered his calls. She monitored who reached him. And as Charlie became more prominent, the distance between him and his parents grew not because of conflict, but because of control. Then J.D. Vance entered the orbit. Charlie's parents weren't naive. They knew politics ran on alliances. They expected J.D. and Charlie to cross paths, to collaborate, to attend the same events. But it was Erika's involvement in those interactions that unsettled them. The first time they sensed something was wrong was during a private dinner. J.D. and his wife, Usha, had been invited. Erika and Charlie were also present. Everything seemed fine, polite conversation, professional tone, nothing unusual. But after dinner, when Charlie stepped away, Erika pulled J.D. aside. She spoke to him in the same calculating tone she used with staffers, discussing optics, influence, and future positioning. The conversation wasn't inappropriate, was strategic. Overly strategic. Charlie's parents noticed the look on J.D.'s face, confusion mixed with discomfort. He wasn't expecting Erika to treat him like a political piece on her personal chessboard. And neither were they. Later, J.D. confided privately that Erika's aggressive involvement in political strategy felt off. Usha felt it too. Something about Erika's influence didn't feel natural. It felt imposed. Charlie's parents held on to that conversation for years. As Erika's scandals worsened, J.D.'s name inexplicably began appearing in connection with her, even though he kept his distance. Charlie's parents didn't understand why until they saw the pattern. Every time Erika's scandals escalated, someone dragged J.D. into the narrative. Not because he was involved, but because linking him to Erika benefited someone else. Someone who wanted to protect Erika's image or redirect the backlash. Charlie's parents realized the truth. J.D. Vance wasn't part of Erika's manipulation. He was a victim of it, just like Charlie. But the public didn't know that. They only saw the headlines, the rumors, the twisted narratives. And so Charlie's parents decided it was time to reveal what they had kept hidden for years, the truth about Erika's influence, the pressure she placed on those around her, and the way her patterns affected not just Charlie, but anyone who came near her political ambitions, including J.D. Vance. Their truth wasn't about exposing scandal. It was about protecting the people who had been dragged into Erika's orbit without consent. It was about shielding J.D. and Usha from the gossip that had been circling them unjustly. And most importantly, it was about reclaiming their son's story from those who continued to twist it for their own gain. They knew speaking out would spark backlash. They knew Erika's defenders would attack. They knew the internet would explode. But for the first time since Charlie's name became a battlefield, they felt ready. Because the truth didn't just belong to Erika, it belonged to them. And they were done letting other people rewrite it. When Charlie Kirk's parents finally made the decision to speak, they didn't do it impulsively. They sat together for hours, sifting through years of memories, some painful, some confusing, and some that they had deliberately pushed aside to avoid conflict with the woman their son married. They had tried to be understanding. They had tried to give Erika the benefit of the doubt. They had tried to believe that whatever tension existed between them could be resolved through patience. But as they discussed everything they had witnessed, they realized the truth had been sitting in front of them for years. It wasn't one moment or one comment or one disagreement. It was a pattern, one that formed slowly, almost silently, until it swallowed everything around it. And the public had only seen fragments of it. They had lived the whole thing. Charlie's parents remembered exactly when they first realized Erika's influence wasn't just concerning, it was strategic. It happened during a period when Charlie was juggling multiple responsibilities, managing Turning Point USA, dealing with rising political pressure, and trying to maintain a semblance of privacy. Erika began stepping into every part of his life, managing details he didn't even know needed managing, guiding conversations he didn't realize he was being guided through. At first, it looked like support. Later, it felt like control. One memory haunted them more than the others. It was a holiday gathering years ago. Long before the scandals, long before the rumors, long before JD's name became entangled with Erika's, Charlie's parents had attempted a rare intervention, not out of anger, but out of concern. They gently expressed to Charlie that they felt he was being isolated from friends and family. They said they missed him. They asked if he was okay. Before Charlie could respond, Erika interjected. She insisted it was unfair to question their marriage, accused them of undermining Charlie's boundaries, and reframed the entire conversation as an attack. Charlie, caught off guard, defended her. The moment ended with everyone upset, and Charlie's parents left the house feeling like they'd lost him. Years later, they understood how purposeful that moment had been. But what shocked them wasn't Erika's behavior. It was how often they saw her repeat that same pattern with other staffers, colleagues, allies, even people with more power than she had. Erika knew how to shift blame, how to reposition narratives, and how to insert herself into situations she didn't belong in. Her influence was subtle, calculated, and always disguised as concern. And that was exactly why the rumors involving J.D. Vance struck Charlie's parents as deeply familiar. It wasn't that they believed J.D. and Erika were involved. They didn't. They knew J.D. They knew Yusha. They trusted them both. But the way Erika's name kept resurfacing in connection to J.D. felt engineered, not organic. It mirrored the same pattern they had witnessed. Over and over again, chaos that conveniently redirected scrutiny away from Erika. Charlie's parents remembered the first time they noticed Erika acting strangely around J.D. It happened at a private event where both couples were present. J.D. had arrived late after a long day of meetings. Usha was beside him, calm and cordial, while Erika approached them with a rehearsed warmth that struck the Kirks as forced. She introduced herself in a tone that felt more like a presentation than a greeting. Throughout the evening, Erika repeatedly drifted into J.D.'s conversations, even when she wasn't part of the topic. She inserted opinions J.D. hadn't asked for, and offered strategic suggestions that felt oddly forward for someone who didn't work with him directly. At the time, Charlie's parents brushed it off as Erika simply being overly involved. But now, in hindsight, they recognized the pattern: her need to align herself with rising political figures. J.D. was rising quickly, and Erika saw opportunity. Over the next year, the Kirks noticed how Erika deliberately positioned herself around important people at events. She knew where cameras were. She knew when to smile. She knew how to stand close enough to be included in photos without appearing like she was trying. She understood optics better than most professional strategists. But what troubled Charlie's parents was how often J.D.'s name appeared in Erika's orbit after that. She referenced him frequently, almost excessively, in conversations that had nothing to do with him. She praised his rise, mentioned his interviews, and made sure people knew she respected his insight. It was subtle, but consistent. Enough that the Kirks began to wonder what her goal was. They kept their thoughts to themselves. They didn't want to create unnecessary conflict. They didn't want to fuel speculation. And they didn't want to stir tension with J.D. or Asha, who had always treated them with kindness. So they stayed quiet until the rumors hit the internet. Suddenly, JD's name was everywhere, paired with Erika's in captions. Headlines, threads, and videos. People twisted innocent photographs, fabricated timelines, and invented stories to reinforce the idea of a secret connection. And the more the Kirks watched, the more they saw the same pattern they had lived through before. Scandal around? Erika always came with a convenient redirection. When Charlie was alive, Erika redirected attention to staffers' colleagues, or even family members to protect herself. After Charlie's passing, she redirected attention to organizations and political movements. Now, amid rising scrutiny, JD had become the new target, someone whose name carried enough weight to distract the public and shield Erika temporarily. And what concerned the Kirks most wasn't what the rumors claimed, but how easily people believed them. They knew JD had no connection to any of this. They knew Usha was being unfairly dragged into a scandal she had nothing to do with. And they knew the public was misreading the situation entirely. So they decided it was time to reveal the truth, not to attack Erika, not to humiliate her, but to finally defend those who were being dragged into her orbit without consent. The truth they revealed was simple, but devastating. They confirmed that Erika often manipulated proximity to powerful figures, including JD, to strengthen her own position. They emphasized that any perceived closeness between Erika and JD was not a real relationship, but a manufactured image Erika created through strategic behavior. They shared memories of seeing Erika controlled Charlie's access to friends, controlling invitations, controlling schedules, controlling who Charlie interacted with. They admitted that they believed Erika attempted similar tactics with JD, not romantically, but politically. She inserted herself into conversations, aligned herself with his rising influence, and positioned herself near him at events in ways that created the illusion of closeness. And they revealed something the public had never known. JD had privately confided to the Kirks years ago that Erika's behavior made him uncomfortable, not because of anything inappropriate, but because it felt calculated. He told them that Erika's attempts to involve herself in political dynamics that didn't concern her were deeply unsettling. He even mentioned that Usha felt the same way. They described Erika as someone who worked the edges of power, always seeking to attach herself to influence. Charlie's parents held on to that information for years. They never repeated it. They never shared it publicly. They respected JD and Usha too much to pull them into drama. But now, with the internet ripping apart their names and their marriage, they felt obligated to speak. They wanted people to understand that the rumors were not only false, they were born from patterns Erika had repeated for years. Patterns that had nothing to do with JD, patterns that Charlie himself had been trapped in. The Kirks' revelation wasn't meant to destroy Erika. It wasn't meant to shame JD. It wasn't meant to create a new scandal. It was meant to reveal the truth behind the lies and protect the people who were being hurt by them. And as their story spread, the world finally began to understand JD Vance wasn't part of Erika's drama. He was another one of its victims. Charlie, Kirk's parents, never wanted to be the ones to speak. They never imagined they would be forced into the public arena, defending their son's name long after he was gone. But as the rumors grew louder and JD Vance's family found themselves caught in Erika Kirk's expanding storm, the Kirks realized it was no longer about protecting Charlie's legacy. Was about stopping the cycle they had watched repeat itself for years. Their decision to go public came only after seeing Usha Vance dragged into a scandal she had nothing to do with. To the Kirks, the attacks on Usha felt painfully familiar. They had watched Erika isolate Charlie, undermine relationships, and manipulate narratives so subtly that many people didn't see what was happening until it was too late. Now, seeing another woman targeted because of Erika's orbit felt like watching history repeat itself, and they refused to let it continue. What Charlie's parents revealed next was the part of the story the public had never heard. What life had actually been like behind closed doors during the years Erika controlled their son's world. Not rumors, not speculation. The truth as they lived it. They recalled a period when Charlie's schedule became strangely restricted. Friends he had known for years struggled to reach him. Invitations suddenly went unanswered. Staffers who had enjoyed easy access to him were quietly pushed aside. At first, they assumed Charlie was simply overwhelmed by his growing responsibilities. But the more they looked back, the more they realized Erika had carefully constructed a barrier around him. A barrier that allowed her to control every aspect of his personal and professional life. Charlie's parents said they noticed Erika's tactics long before the public did. She used warmth as a shield, politeness as a weapon, and concern as a form of manipulation. If someone questioned her behavior, she reframed it as an attack. If someone got too close to Charlie, she found ways to undermine them. And if someone tried to warn Charlie, she spun the situation until he believed they were the problem. They watched Erika managing Charlie's relationships so often that they eventually recognized the pattern instantly, even in situations that didn't involve them directly. So when rumors began linking Erika with J.D. Vance, the Kirks didn't see scandal. They saw another example of proximity manipulation, a tactic Erika relied on whenever she felt her influence slipping. But what the Kirks revealed next was something they had only shared with a small circle of trusted/quit people until now. Shortly before Charlie passed, he had begun questioning Erika's behavior. According to his parents, Charlie confided that he felt cut off from people he cared about. He said he didn't understand why certain friends had disappeared or why his parents seemed distant. It wasn't anger, he was confused. And for the first time, he wondered aloud whether Erika had made decisions on his behalf without him knowing. Charlie's parents encouraged him gently, telling him they loved him, reminding him of how close they once were, and assuring him that nothing could break their bond. For a brief moment, they believed the walls Erika had built around Charlie might finally be coming down. But that moment didn't last. Erika found out about the conversation. How? They never knew. Anne confronted Charlie with accusations of betrayal. She claimed his parents were trying to divide the marriage. She insisted the Kirks were jealous of her role in Charlie's life. And within days, the progress Charlie had made slipped away. The Kirks said it was one of the most painful moments of their lives, watching their son torn between love and manipulation, trying to balance loyalty to his wife with loyalty to the truth. And that was why, when they saw JD and Asha being pulled into Erika's scandals, they couldn't stay silent any longer. They had seen firsthand how destructive Erika's tactics could be, and they refused to let another family become collateral damage. But the most shocking part of their revelation was still to come. Charlie's parents explained that the rumor linking JD and Erika did not originate from a random online account. They believed it came from someone deliberately trying to redirect attention away from Erika's internal problems. An old tactic with a new target. They shared a detail the public had never heard before. Weeks before the rumor went viral, Erika had been privately confronted about her involvement in a separate Turning Point controversy. Several insiders had threatened to expose her role. The Kirks believed someone in Erika's camp launched the JD rumor as a distraction. This revelation changed everything. It meant JD was not only innocent, he was being used, and Usha was being punished for something she had no connection to. Charlie's parents emphasized that JD had always treated Charlie with respect. He had always acted professionally around Erika. He had always kept his distance when her behavior raised red flags. And most importantly, he had never once pursued a relationship, personal or political, without considering its implications for his family. So when Erika's defenders online tried to twist the story into an affair rumor, Charlie's parents knew they had to intervene. They revealed that JD had once approached them privately after witnessing Erika's behavior at an event. He apologized not because he had done anything wrong, but because he felt uncomfortable being placed in situations where Erika inserted herself into political discussions that didn't concern her. He wanted the Kirks to know he respected them, respected Charlie, and respected the boundaries Erika often ignored. Charlie's parents said they never forgot that conversation. It was one of the few times they felt truly seen. Now, seeing JD attacked publicly, they felt a responsibility to defend him not as a political figure, but as someone who had been kind to their son when their son needed kindness. Then came the final revelation, one that left the internet stunned. Charlie's parents said that during one of their last private conversations with their son, Charlie admitted something that had weighed on him heavily. He said he worried that people would eventually blame others like JD for Erika's choices. He said he hoped the public would see through manipulation. He said he wished the people around him would tell the difference between genuine relationships and strategic alignments. Charlie's parents believed if he were alive today, he would be heartbroken to see JD and Usha dragged into the fallout of Erika's behavior. That was why they finally spoke. Not to expose Erika, not to attack JD, not to stir more scandal, but to protect the truth Charlie had hoped would eventually come to light. Their final message was simple. JD Vance was never part of Erika's influence. He was another person who saw it and stepped away. And we will not allow our silence to be used to hurt innocent families. When Charlie's parents finished speaking, the narrative shifted. The public's perception of the rumor shattered. Commentators who had once speculated on the JD Erika connection now acknowledged that the real story was never about an affair, was about manipulation, control, and the long shadow Erika cast over the people around her. And in the end, their truth finally spoken became the one thing that could not be twisted, the truth that connected Charlie, JD, and Usha in a way no rumor ever had. They were victims of the same pattern, and this time, the pattern had finally been exposed. The truth doesn't always roar when it arrives. Sometimes it comes quietly from the people who were there the whole time, watching the storms build long before the public ever noticed the clouds. Charlie Kirk's parents didn't speak to create drama or fuel new rumors. They spoke to end the cycle of manipulation that had pulled too many innocent people into its orbit. Their words finally separated fact from fiction, loyalty from strategy, and genuine relationships from manufactured narratives. If this story opened your eyes, don't let it disappear into the next headline. Share it, talk about it. Because the truth they revealed doesn't just protect JD Vance and his family, it protects the memory of their son, the integrity of those he trusted, and the people who were unfairly dragged into controversy they never created. Rumors fade, but damage doesn't. Narratives collapse, but the people targeted by them still feel the weight. That's why revelations like this matter. Not because they expose scandal, but because they expose intentions, the intentions behind manipulation, behind silence, behind this spinning of stories that hurt. Families for sport. Charlie's parents refused to let their silence enable another lie. They refused to let JD and Usha be collateral damage. And they refused to let Erika's patterns define the truth. Forever, let their clarity be a reminder when you speak up for the truth. You don't just defend the past, you protect the future. You protect the future.